today I want to talk about kind of the mental aspect of being injured, because I know it's tough. I've been there before. I've had a double leg break as a 10 or 11 year old, I believe I was 11, and then following on a few months later from that, I broke my wrist after only a few games of coming back. And since then I've had my fair share of ankle injuries, other just horrible injuries really, strains, muscle tears. I've been through all of it. So, and that's not because I'm necessarily injury prone, by the way, but just purely because, you know, I've had a lot of experience played a lot of games. So I'm going to be teaching you exactly what to do in a period of time where you are injured. So first things first, don't stress. Just honestly stop stressing, because, you know, you think in your head, I'm never going to make it now, I've lost so much time. Yes, fair enough, you've lost a little bit of time, but that doesn't mean anything. There's literally hundreds, if not thousands, of footballers who are professional right now who have had serious injuries. And the likelihood is, if you're watching this, that you haven't had a serious injury. You probably have a 6-week injury. Let's just say 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever it is. You have to view football, if you watched one of my previous videos, I talked about this. You have to understand that football isn't a one-year job. It's not something where, you know, you're going to grind really hard for a couple weeks and then you're going to get into an academy. Sure, if you're about 8 years old, that might work. You might get noticed really quickly from that. But for the vast majority of you, you're not just going to suddenly start doing a few specific drills that really help you and then boom, you're in an academy a week later. That's just not the reality of football. It's the most competitive sport in the world. It's honestly the most competitive thing ever. So it's just not the reality, right? But at the same time, this is a benefit to you, because it means that if you do get injured, for example, you don't actually miss out on a lot, because football isn't that kind of 2-week burst and boom, you become pro. It's not how it works. It's a thing where it's years on years on years on years on years. And look, this sounds boring. This is the boring advice, but it's the truth, right? Football is a long-term thing. And that means if you get injured for 6 weeks, firstly, put it into perspective. Understand that it's not the end of the world. I've literally got an injury now. It's like a 1 or 2 week injury. It's a little groin tear, or groin strain rather, not a full tear. And look, I'm at the point now where I've had my fair share of injuries, and honestly, it doesn't even faze me. Yes, fair enough, it's a little bit annoying, but it doesn't matter, because you can't do anything about it. You have to understand that as an athlete, things are going to stress you out, things are not going to stress you out. It's a highly stressful sport that you're playing, right? If you want to chase the dream, you're going to be putting in a lot of sacrifices, whether it's from, you know, mental sacrifices, you're literally losing your mind over this sport, or it's, you know, you're not meeting your friends, you know, you're going down a different path after school. You're going to put a lot into this. And one thing you have to understand is, if you're going to put a lot into something, you need to actually know where to put your energy and where to put your effort and time. And one thing that you don't want to do is put your energy and effort into something that you can't even control. So if you are injured, firstly, stop stressing. Secondly, what you need to do is be super disciplined with your recovery. Honestly, you would not believe how much recovery actually helps. I know I didn't. Obviously, when I was younger, I was kind of forced to do, like, you know, the rehab and all that stuff. But I know that as you get older, you kind of have more personal choice. You have more freedom over what you do. So let's say you do get a bad injury, for example, or even just a mini injury where it's like a grade 2 strain, anything like this that puts you out for 8 weeks, whatever it is. Look, your recovery is absolutely so important, and you need to understand that, because if you have that kind of freedom of choice, that personal choice, and you choose that, you know, you're not going to do your recovery, even just one day, even just missing one day is not good enough, okay? Because you have to understand, most competitive sport in the world, missing one day, of course, is not the end of the world. And I'm very itchy. I've just walked through some quite long grass. But you have to understand that missing one day is not good enough, because if you miss one day, someone else is working that day. And that's quite a toxic mindset to have. However, it is the raw reality of stuff. You're competing with other people, and if you and someone else both have an injury and one person is recovering better than you, then that person may play an extra game or two. And in football, you need to grab every little bit of advantage you can get. So if you can play an extra game than someone, and you do that over 10 years, you know, you've played 10 extra games. And while that might not seem significant, trust me, that could be significant. So second point is, you have to be disciplined with your recovery. Now, I can't specifically advise you on what your recovery is, because it's different for every injury. But as a bare minimum, if you have any sort of swelling, make sure you're icing it, and make sure you're doing heat therapy as well. So it's like 10 minutes icing and then 10 minutes, put a bit of, you know, a hot water bottle or anything like that on it. And then as well as that, like actual ice baths as well, really good for just reducing swelling. That's what you kind of do like straight away after you've had an injury. And that's pretty much it for point 2. Obviously I can't reveal absolutely everything when it comes to recovering from injuries. If you do want more secrets like that though, my program will be linked in the description. Literally the blueprint for becoming a professional footballer. I use it, everyone I know uses it. It's the blueprint. So if you are interested in actually becoming a professional footballer and you're serious about it, Pro Player Pathway will be linked in the description. That is the program for you. And now, on to point 3 when it comes to injuries. It's just being patient. You have to understand that your body it's not necessarily a robot. You can't just, fix a part and then just chuck it out, replace it. You're not just going to be straight back to football like that. It's very important that you're patient. What you don't want to do and what you really, really want to avoid is just rushing. Because if you rush back in and you've got a grade 1 strain or some sort of ligament damage, you will make it undoubtedly way worse. And you cannot afford to do that. Because, you might make a 6-week injury, you might turn it into a year injury. So it's very important to be patient, know when to go back. And if you don't know when to go back, of course, feel free to ask me. I can't tell you absolutely everything because I can't diagnose every single one of your injuries, but I will respond to as many comments as I can. But see a physio, other things like that. Your club will probably have a physio, or there'll be someone who is some sort of trained doctor. Just see someone who has like a medical profession who will be able to give you better advice than the average person. And then also, as well as that, when you're playing youth football, I know if you're especially playing a low level, there's not loads of medical advice. Coaches, managers, they might just chuck you straight back into the team and try and get you to play 90 minutes. Don't do that either. Be patient, be logical, think about it. If your muscles haven't moved for 8 weeks because they're really tired and you've messed up and they've become injured, then look, don't go back and play 90 minutes. It's as simple as that. So what you should do in that instance is just ease yourself back in. Go for a jog, see how it feels when you're on your jog. Then do a bit of agility stuff, do your turning. See how your ankle deals with it, see how your knee deals with it. Whatever injury you may have, just ease yourself back in. Because if you don't, like I said, you can turn a 6-week injury into, for example, a whole year injury. And that is not something that you want to do. And point number 4, and this is more of a human point, a life advice point, and that is that football cannot be absolutely the be-all end-all for you. And if it even is, right, and that's dangerous territory to be in. However, I know how it is. It was for me for a very long time. It still is now, really. But if you are in that scenario, right, and you are injured, you need to do other things in your life, right? Now, you probably go to school, so it's probably not the end of the world. But when you finish school and stuff, and you usually have training, and you're missing training, your friends are going to training, you're seeing on their Snapchat stories, all of this stuff, make sure you're busy as well. Don't be that loser who only has football in their life and nothing else. You don't want to be that person, because let's say the worst case happens, right, and football doesn't work out. You don't want that to be your entire identity, because that's something that happened to me during school when I was at Luton, and I got dropped. Football was my entire identity. Everyone knew me as the football guy, the guy who's good at football. And then I got dropped, and what happened? I didn't even know who I was. I had to find that out again for myself. So make sure you're keeping busy. Have some sort of other hobby. It doesn't have to necessarily be, a sport hobby. Obviously, that would be ideal when you're not injured. But when you're injured, do something else. Like for me, for example, and as weird as it sounds, I love playing chess. I absolutely love playing chess. So when I'm injured, like right now, I'm grinding chess. And it sounds so silly because it has nothing to do with football. But that's the point. If you want to be a professional athlete, you need that mental headspace away from football. You can't always be locked in on football. So for this advice, and this is probably like a fox in there or something. I don't know if you could hear that. But for this piece of advice, this was probably the most important one. Do something else with your life while you're injured. Get some sort of other hobby, whether it's playing chess like me, or it's meeting your friends, anything like that. Make sure it's some sort of healthy hobby. Don't be playing video games 24/7. It's really bad stuff. Whatever it is, just get some sort of other hobby. I'm trying to think of other hobbies, but honestly, I'm a very standard guy. For me, right, and something that's helped me with football is actually starting YouTube channels like this. Just talking to a camera, it gives me something else to do, because you have to understand, even when you're not injured, right, you're going to have a lot of free time as a footballer. You can only train so many times in a day and do so many ice baths. You're going to have a lot of free time. And in the instances where you do have free time or you are injured, You need to do something else. So find some sort of hobby. That's going to be the end of this video. I hope these 4 points have helped, and I'll see you back for another video. Pro Player Pathway will be linked in the description. See you later.